Hello everyone, welcome to CMAA Civic Education 101. In episode 2, we will be chatting about the Lowell City Council featuring 3 guest speakers. Today, let's meet Mr. Rithy Uong, a former city councilor here in the city of Lowell. Mr. Uong came to the United States as a refugee in 1981 and became the first person of Southeast Asian descent to be elected to any public office in the United States. He also made history as the first Cambodian-American City Councilor here in Lowell and won election to the City Council in 1999. He subsequently won re-election in 2001 and 2003. Currently, Mr. Uong is a guidance counselor at Lowell High School. Today, CMAA has the privilege of interviewing Mr. Uong and asking more about his story. Without further ado, let's meet Mr. Uong.
Just telling us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, and what made you move to this country.
Well, I'm Uong Rithy. My full name is Uong Rithy. The way that the Asian's name should be the last name first and first name comes second. I raised in the largest family of 11 in Cambodia. Moved to America in 1981 due to the killing fields. One of the survivors of the killing fields, and came here for running away from the communist ruling country. I didn't like it at that time because I was a student back and I wanted to study. So when I came here, I got to the United States. I only spoke a few words of English at that time, and I was 10th grader in Cambodia, and 11th grader when the communists took over the country. And when I came back here, I just worked in the as assembly line person in Fort Worth, Texas, and I knew that I did not want to be in that position, and I blamed my father. Took me out from my study and came to United States, knowing that I couldn't pursue my education. So I decided my life wouldn't be in this position, so I decided to save all the money that I had, that I worked as an assembler. I went to study, and I met a social worker who just got a newly graduated from Harvard University, and I told her in my broken English I want to study, so she took me to study at junior college in Texas, and they put me in a class that I just ran out as I couldn't understand a thing. And then I just work hard and get my job. So I save all the money, and then I moved to Massachusetts, and I put all my money that I saved to Boston University, study English full time, thanks to the help of the social worker. And here I am. Then after I got my English, I took GED test. I passed it for the first round, and I applied to college. I started with UMass Boston for 2 years, and get full scholarship to Boston University, TAPS, and UMass Amherst. And it's Northeastern, so I decided to go to BU and finish my bachelor in electrical engineering at the time in 1987. And because I didn't like the way the field that I picked due to my English, so I decided to get my master in education, and I got a full scholarship to UMass Amherst and became a math teacher. And then later on, I got a job as guidance counselor, and then my life moved on because I know that I do not like my commitment is working to promote people in civic education and human rights, and that's because I have seen so much. So I decided to go back to Cambodia and work for the United Nations for a year as an electoral training officer, and work for the non-profit organization for 3 years, and came back to the United States. And at the time that I started to run for the public office in the city of Lowell.
So what was the kind of the decision point where you were like, I want to run for city councilor in 1999?
I didn't want to run for city council. Before I ran for city council, I was working in the as the math teacher and guidance counselors. I was also the president of CMAA actually. So when I came back from Cambodia and feel that the people on the boards feel that I should run for city council, and they put together as a team and persuaded me to go, and they said I have the personality to take the loss. If I lose the election, I will be fine, not somebody else. So I said, okay, I'll try if they willing to help me out. So they will commit to that, and after we made a decision, so I decided to run for a city council. And they said if I could raise $10,000 back in 1998, 1999 is a lot of money, and then I would be a viable candidate. And I said I should do that. I could do that. So we launched the first campaign party. I raised about $7,000. So that was really a big move, and that time I was the chairman I was the president of CMAA also.
You said that you had there were so many people who were looking to support you when you were running. Were those people a lot of the Khmer elders and Khmer communities in Lowell?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of the Khmer people, all Khmer people that we initially talked about it, and then once they decide to stay behind me, then I start to reach out to other community.
One of the most interesting part about your experiences running was the fact that the community members, the Khmer communities, were able to support you. How did you manage to get the Khmer elderlies the information that they need?
Well, I think that's a very great point. That the year that I ran, we only about 97 registered voters out of about 25,000 to 30,000 Cambodian people in the city. 97 that cast their ballots. So we did a lot of voter registration drive. So we did every weekend, every day. Thanks again to my election team. We did canvassing, and we managed to have voter registration drive every single supermarket in the city. So by our team, where people, all colors came out to help, white, brown, you name it, came to support, and so we did everything we could. So we registered about over 2,000 new registered voters, and on that election night, about 800 Cambodian-Americans cast the ballot versus 79 cast the ballot previous year. So we did our ballot in Khmer. We checked the registered voters who were Khmer voters. So we send the message directly to those homes and ask them to vote singly. So whatever it works, we get about 800 Cambodian voters cast the ballot.
And what were some of the challenges that you faced as a person of color running?
I think honestly, I had to take some private class because to make sure I articulate enough, especially the accent that I have. I had to spend about $100 per hour to pay for private tutors. You have to make sure that I know how to project the word I had to project it. I had to articulate the word that had to be articulated. So it took me about 10 sessions to prepare for that, and I had to make sure that I had to slow down when I speak, make sure I learn the way that politicians would do in terms of speaking to people. And to meet people, I know I can do it, but to articulate yourself, to make sure you make connection with the people, you have to learn. The issue that you make across, make sure people understand or not. You have to understand that with the issue that you have, sometimes the people think that they make you feel that they understood what you were talking about. But in my heart, I knew that they didn't understand. So you have to reiterate and pretend it that they understood what you were saying. But in the meantime, you try to elaborate a different issue to them. But I think people start to realize that some people making fun of you, but hey, you are in public, you are willing to take issue to come along with. That's how that's how the public figures is all about. So I accepted that. But the issue that you have to deal with as a politician, you have to accept what may come to you and being able to translate it back. People make a negative remark to you, I would translate to be a positive remark back, and people will release that. And that's it's being minority, being a person of color, being a person that first language not your first language is English is not your first language. It's very, very difficult. I think you have to have personality to deal with different racism and the prejudice against you. If you don't have personality to deal with that, don't become a public figures because you.
Explain to us, like, what is the role of a city councilor?
I think you're a policy maker for the city. You create laws, you get policy that are adopted by the city councils, and that will use in the city. And whatever you decide, the law, the policy that you make, will affect everybody. And that's how it happened. It's all about the inclusion levels. When I came to the city, we did not have a firefighter. So I pushed to get one firefighter Cambodian on board. The person tried many times. They almost dropped him off, but with the work that I had, he became a firefighter. I got on board. I got more Cambodian to serve on various boards in the city. It never happened before, so I put a lot of people, I diversified some board to get Asian and minorities on board. And because I'm only one among 9, I did not make too much noises on the council. I had to work with everyone else behind the back door to make things happen.
As a city councilor, it's a part-time position, right? Like, the hours are supposedly part-time. So how did you manage your other job and also the role of being a city councilor?
That's a good question. We manage because of part-time position. Mostly we do respond after work at night and in the evening, and also on the weekend. I went to different ceremonies, different courses. Sometimes get a call. We just visited the place. So we work. We try our best to be there in a different location, different places. I got the package of meeting every Friday night, so we had to read through. It's something that we have to follow. We have to investigate a certain issue that we have. Make a phone call to the person. We did a site visit to the place. We conduct fact-finding investigation by ourselves because we do not have staff to work for us. So what we have to do is to make inquiry by yourself to the best of your knowledge.
What do you think about the new voting system for this upcoming election? And if you can give advice to people, what are some of the advice?
I think the new running system is great to bring more new bloods coming to the politics and the things. What is good about it that the encourage younger generations who never thought that they would have a chance to get elected, to be known in the community, to be known by their ability and the work that can be done through the commitment. And I think that's a great thing. I think that the past politics that always one community rule the city will change. And I think the change will change for good. The change will change for better for the city of Lowell. The change will bring more new leaders in the city that we would never had before. So that should be a good thing.
Do you have any advice for young people looking into getting into politics?
And I think that's get involved, and I say they get involved in civic education and get involved with the. If you want to run for district, you have to put yourself, get involved everywhere that you could, and make yourself well known, and do what you can do to make connections. And the key part is that if you want to get a certain community to support you, make sure to find key leaders in that community.
Thank you so much for spending your time with CMAA today. We really appreciate all of your stories and just your time.
That's great. I think that most of all, your young generation have a better command in English, have a better accent in English. The future is yours, and I would love to see more new generation to come forward. That's how my intention was in 1999, to bring more new voice in the council, new voice in the city. So it has been, and we should all keep the work that we've been done to the people. And I think everything we do to promote the people, to fight for injustice, injustice in the city, that will affect a lot of people, not just in the city, but everywhere else. And thank you for having me there.
Thank you, Mr. Uong, for sharing your story with CMAA. We really appreciate and are inspired by your story and hope that other young people are as well, and will take advantage of Lowell's new election system to run for public office. Until next time, this has been CMAA's Civic Engagement Team with Civic Education 101. Next, as part of Episode 2, we will introduce you to our surprise guest speaker. Until then, stay tuned.